Punk Revolution now. Today we are going to be talking about a very controversial and taboo subject that no one asked me to talk about, but I want to talk about it because Anthony Fantano recently got confronted with this question by Punch, who is the president of the Top Dog Entertainment record label. That record label just recently released Isaiah Rashad's newest album. Anthony Fantano gave that album a 5, and then Punch, the president of the record label, confronts Anthony Fantano, basically asking, how do you prepare to listen to and to critique black music? And lots of people, when they saw this tweet from Punch, they were like, dude, what the hell are you doing? Why are you bringing race into it? What do you mean? How do you prepare and to listen to freaking black music? What do I have to freaking read a freaking history of African American history before I listen to music? Obviously lots of people were kind of confused about it. Lots of people were saying he was just kind of using this as an excuse for the to try to cope with the fact that Anthony Fantano doesn't like the new Isaiah Rashad album. But the thing is, even though a lot of people were trying to brush this tweet off from Punch as just totally irrelevant and totally stupid and just totally nonsensical, the truth is I see a lot of people, I very closely follow what people are talking about in the world of indie music, and I see people talking about this specific question all the time. I mean, I see it especially from people who are conservative more than anyone else. I see conservatives who are very hyper fixated on these kind of conspiracies that the media, Pitchfork, and maybe the entire media all across the board, CNN and everything, are for whatever reason giving black people and just non-white people, non-white, cis, straight male, whatever people an advantage. And that's kind of, what they believe and think about. They certainly think about that and talk about that a lot. I mean, you can definitely see it in Fox News all the time, especially when they're talking about white people being replaced in the United States. And those on the left, including myself, when they're thinking about issues of racism, they tend to think about it in a very institutional and structural way, where there are institutions and power structures in our society that in one way or another reinforce racism. So obviously music writers who tend to be very left-wing, a lot of them tend to be super cautious that they're gonna unintentionally contribute to racism in one way or the other. And that might sound kind of ridiculous to some conservatives who don't really think about it that way, but I do see this happen. Recently, I'm not saying any names, but I did see a music critic recently come out and say that they were going to stop reviewing hip-hop because they found that when they reviewed hip-hop, they got less views. I think it's really lame to decide what you're gonna review literally very openly just based off what's gonna get you the most views. And then of course, if you think about it, who's mostly making hip-hop is black people. So if you're choosing to just completely stop reviewing hip-hop, you're not exposing a wide audience to a lot of really awesome music that black people are making. And I'm sure this music critic isn't having racist thoughts, but just with the power that they have, the way they're using it, it's gonna unintentionally, that's gonna really fucking suck for a lot of black artists who are making hip-hop. And it seems like there's kind of this battle going on where the conservatives are saying, oh, you're taking it too far, you're being too sensitive, you're giving them too much representation. And then there's people on the left who are like, no, we're not doing enough to make sure there's equal representation. And who fucking knows, maybe there actually are some people who in their mind do some sort of calculation well, this person is from a poor background, but they're straight, but they're also Latino, so I'm gonna give them this many points to combat racism. I don't know, maybe there are people who do that, but just from my perspective, I'm gonna tell you how I do it, just in case you're curious. I think every music critic ought to kind of be aware of this stuff to an extent. For me, I'm very lucky because I just kind of do it the very straightforward way, where if you release an album that I think is good and well executed, I'm going to give it a higher score, and if you release an album that I think is bad, I'm going to give it a less good score. And I really am not going to take into consideration your race or gender or class or sexuality or anything into the score, even though I'm totally aware of all the different ways that those people face discrimination. I'm a music critic who's doing this for fun. I don't want to have to try to calculate into my score, how should I change the score based on who this person's background is. I don't do that, and luckily for me, I don't have to do that because as anyone who's been paying attention to music coming out lately, there's been a ton of very good music from people from all backgrounds. So literally, I just review albums that I think are good, and it's gonna just kind of work out where I think I'm doing at least a decent job of, making sure there's representation, making sure I'm not doing something stupid like not reviewing hip hop albums at all, or not reviewing music made by black people at all because I don't get enough views from it or whatever. Now that would be a fucking issue, but I literally just do it the normie. I'm gonna review based on how much I like it, and I'm not gonna think about it. And I think because of just how music is coming out now, it just kind of works out. And there's another point in Punch's tweet that's also very important, which is about how black people have a different relationship to making music. That's nuanced, that Punch pointed out. Again, something that some people mocked and thought was stupid, but this is actually just like a fact. Like, it's not just like a kind of like postmodern interpretation of race and music. Like, this is literally like, you go on the Wikipedia page articles for so many genres, from hip hop to techno to reggae and dub to soul to R&B, jazz. Like, there's just a ton of genres where, like, these are genres where not only the best of it is prominently made by African Americans, but like the history of the genre, it was like actually created by African Americans. And these genres, they influence each other, and they go all the way back to, gospels being sang back during slavery in the United States. So like, this is actually like a historical fact that black people have a different relationship to making music. It's played a different role in their lives. They've had different things happen in their lives that have impacted their music differently. So of course, that raises the question then, like, how do I kind of take that into consideration? Again, I feel like I kind of take the very normie approach, which is, even though I'm kind of aware of the fact that there's all this history. When I'm reviewing a hip hop album or punk album or any genre, I want to like literally listen to that entire artists, as much of their discography as I can. I want to explore that entire genre. So if I'm listening to a hip hop album, it's important for me to understand the context of hip hop, going all the way back to the 80s, the origins, all the way through to today. And I also want to listen to the genres that have influenced hip hop, because I'm exploring music just how I explore any other genre, which is to go through all the influences, like the entire tree of genres influencing each other. I am like kind of, without even trying, I'm getting all the context. I mean, obviously there's a lot of context I'm not going to be able to get because I'm not black, but you can learn a lot from listening to music from people from different cultures, and so I do feel like I've learned at least a decent amount of the nuanced sort of approach that black people kind of have taken throughout American history to make really good music. Like, I'm capable of listening to a genre in soul or hip hop or R&B and being able to kind of interpret it and figure out what's good from it. If I was a total dumbass who didn't know shit about these genres and I came in and just listened to an amazing soul album and I was like, oh, this sucks, I don't like soul, then yeah, that would be an example of someone not understanding the nuance or understanding the context within that genre and within the history of that genre. That would be stupid. But like I said, I just kind of, it's like I'm taking a very neutral approach, and what I think is just an approach that just tries to be like objectively in line with reality as much as possible. And I think that just kind of, fortunately for me, works out in a way that I think I'm able to give honest reviews with solid representation of who's making good music right now. That's kind of my approach. I think there's a lot of validity to a lot of these issues, and I think it's important to talk about and not brush to the side. And like I said, I think a lot of people do think and talk about these issues. So, shout out to Punch for kind of just cutting through the bullshit and just directly asking it to Anthony Fantano, even though he got a lot of criticism for it. So that's all I have to say. Let me know if you have any questions. That's kind of my thought process. That's kind of how I see it. So if you ever were wondering, that's kind of my take. So thanks for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe. Punk Revolution now.